Hi, welcome to a new YouTube video. Today we're going to be looking at the arms. I'm also giving YouTube another try again, so I'm going to be doing anatomy videos, probably doing some painting, specifically watercolor because that's what I've been looking at. And this channel is going to be mostly traditional focused, teaching you different art fundamentals so that you can have a better time when drawing and painting. So today we're going to be looking at arms. Arms is actually, to me, it's one of the difficult things, especially when it comes to drawing people, but hopefully the way I break it down will be accessible so that you guys can feel more confident when drawing arms. So I think I'm going to start from the back half. So we're going to look at the back, and one of the key things to remember when drawing arms is the shoulder blade. So from the back half, one of the ways you can visualize it, imagine drawing a square, right, like this. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to condense that down into almost like a triangle shape. And so this is going to be our shoulder blade. From the back half, this will be something that you can kind of see. The next muscle, or the next thing I'm going to specifically talk about, is the deltoid. So the deltoid actually comes over where the shoulder blade is. So we've got our shoulder blade here with the deltoid. The best way I could describe it is, imagine you could imagine like a mini love heart, or you can think of it like a flower petal. So when it comes to the deltoid, all we're gonna do is we're gonna draw slightly over where that shoulder blade is, and we're just gonna make sure it kind of covers that. So that's our deltoid. So shoulder blade, deltoid. So first two things at the top that you want to remember, just to recap: this triangular like shape for the shoulder blade, and then this flower petal like shape that comes over the shoulder blade, which is the deltoid. On the back half of the shoulder blade, this is what you're gonna see. So I'm gonna draw it from a different angle. I'm gonna draw the shoulder blade, drawing that triangular like shape. Can draw the bones as well to go with it. There's not as much about the bones here. We're kind of just looking at the muscles. And to me, it does show up, but it more prominently shows up in muscular people. But you're gonna have and bear with me because all these muscle names are different, and if you've never heard of the muscle names, then it sounds really complicated. But you're gonna have the infraspinatus, which is like this big section here. Then you're gonna have the teres minor, which is here. And then you're gonna have the teres major. So essentially, you're gonna have 1, 2, 3 sections at which you've got different muscles, and then there's the supraspinatus, which kind of goes on the top of that. But maybe one way to simplify it down is actually just to think of this as one shape like this, a second shape like this, and a third shape like that all come together over the top of the shoulder blade. And you're really only going to see this in more muscular people. And then the deltoid, or that flower pattern, or that flower petal, sorry, is actually just going to hang over the top of those three muscles. Okay, yeah, so in terms of the back half of the arm, I'm gonna do it here. So yeah, remember the triangle? And follow along with me as I do this, because it will help you visualize things, but also pick up different shapes that you can use. Gonna draw the bone coming down. And so, yeah, of course you have the deltoid, those three muscles which would hang here, but underneath that deltoid, we're gonna have the triceps. So the best way to think about these is imagine two muscles that are alongside each other. And imagine it kind of makes like an S curve. So best way to visualize it, S curve on this side, and then imagine a C curve on this side. So this is the kind of shape that you're gonna have. And so yeah, we get the triceps, we get the long head tricep, we get the lateral head tricep, and then we get the medial head, which is like a small part of the tricep here. So medial head, and this actually goes down into the bone, or it goes down into a place where you can actually make out parts of the bone. And then coming down from that, you get like this triangle shape, which kind of covers part of the lower half of this bone here. And we get two different things. So we get the extensors, which is to this half, and we get the flexors, which is to this half. So let's just draw that in. So you can see that I follow like an S curve here, and then a C curve. It's a bit of an S curve, but more of like a C curve. And so on this side, we get a group called the extensors. And then on this side, we get a small bit, which is actually the flexors. So essentially the extensor muscles allow you to extend your fingers, extend the arm, and then the flexors are what are the muscles that are used to bring your fingers back in. So that's the back half of the arm. To recap the back half of the arm, what we're gonna do, gonna draw that triangle or triangular like shape for the shoulder blade. That's gonna come down. Yeah, I guess we can do all the muscles here. So I'm gonna draw one big one over the top, a smaller one, and a smaller one than that. That represents the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres major, teres minor. So those three. And then the deltoid, we have that flower petal like shape that comes over the top. I'm just gonna scribble in black over it so it's more distinguishable, the deltoid. Then we get our triceps. So if you remember, one on the other side, gonna have two. This comes down to a place where you can see the bone. We have one little piece here, so 1, 2, 3, and then I guess the thing to remember is just the S curves and the C curves. S curve, more of a C curve. Let's cross that off. And then yeah, we get the flexors on this side. No, I mean extensors on this side and the flexors on this side. Yeah, so let's just label that. I know that might seem complicated, so we'll try and do some examples. I'll probably actually just refer to something I've already done, so we can refer to this. Sketch along with me, it'll help. So here we're just starting off with the deltoid. And we can draw that kind of triangular like shape for where the shoulder blade is. But we've got our shoulder blade, the deltoid. It depends, you're not always gonna see really pronounced parts of the infraspinatus, the spinatus, teres minor and major. Yeah, so we've got shoulder blade, deltoid. Underneath, we're gonna make like a separate part. And this is where our triceps are gonna be. And if you remember, there's this part between where the triceps are and the bone, and a space for the bone. So you can just create that by doing this. Drawing roughly where the bone is. And you can draw like a small kind of indication of showing where the bone is. So deltoid, that's where our triceps are, where the bone is. And then underneath, kind of just group them like this, where we've got our extensors. And then we're gonna think about that kind of S-curve shape, and we've got our flexors on the other side. And then I'm just gonna close that off, and then that goes back into where the hand is. And I'm I'm not gonna draw a super detailed hand, I'm just gonna hint at it like that. But yeah, you can see how I use the landmarks. We've got the deltoid, this massive shape here. You've got the triceps here, here, here. And then you've got the flexors and extensors. And you can see how we don't really... we're not drawing it super detailed out, and like as you look at reference images, it might not be as pronounced. And so it will be the case of taking what you know, but also dialing it back to fit the reference image that you're looking at. So the front half, I think it's still kind of helpful to draw the back shoulder blade because it kind of gives you a reference of where everything is. So yeah, we're gonna draw that kind of triangular symbol there. And one thing that actually helps me is just using circular motion to create like a muscle mass, and then just thicken your line weight or use more pressure on the pencil to thicken the line that you're doing to show the muscle mass, kind of like this. And it might just be more of like a stylistic choice, but it helps me. So yeah, shoulder blade, deltoid, and it also helps it feel a bit more 3D or a bit more lifelike. Okay, so yeah, deltoid, shoulder blade. Underneath that, we're gonna have the biceps. And the bicep is something that's, it's just, imagine something that's a bit more pronounced. And to the side of that, you're gonna see part of the triceps. But it's gonna be a lot less than the biceps. Yeah, so I'm just gonna label what we've got so far. Deltoid, bicep, tricep, shoulder blade. And as we come down, we're gonna have flexors on the inside, and you're also gonna have the brachialis as well. So let's do this. Thinking about that circular like shape again. Gonna do another circular like shape on the other side. And this is more just to represent what I mean. So flexor. There is also this, though I'm not sure how much you see of it really. On the outside here we've got the pronator teres, and then here, right next to the flexor, we get the brachialis. And so that's from the front. So to recap the front half of the arm, And hopefully this is helping. But I think one of the ways in which you have to apply it is over time, just through obviously drawing alongside me, but then looking at reference images and sketching those out and seeing what you can see. Yeah, let's break down what we've looked at. One of the ways you can simplify this, one is kind of the flower petal thing again. This is the deltoid. Two, underneath that, you're gonna have this big mass, which is our bicep, and just right next to it, but slightly underneath it, is our tricep. And then you can kind of just draw two kind of circular shapes beside each other and bring those or pronounce those out. Obviously there is that what we would call the brachialis. Here, flexors here, and yeah, that way we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think sometimes you can see the pronator teres, which just comes alongside muscle 4, which is the brachialis, but it's not always visible. More so visible on people who are muscular. Yeah, so that's the front half of the arm. The other thing that the arm can do is rotate. And so it's just the bottom half of the arm that changes as it rotates. So drawing like this pole shape to represent the bone, but also represent the upper half of the arm. As it rotates, this is what you're gonna see. So imagine one, I guess it kind of looks like a snake, or like a flamingo wrapping itself around. Two coming alongside that. And then 3 is actually, I would say 3 is more just a group of muscles, but this is just like a group of extensor muscles. So I'd say 3 is actually this, but rather what we're seeing here is like multiple muscles extending downward towards the hand. And so I'd say when the arms flip, what you're really thinking about is 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, as it flips, let's just write out what we see. Extensor muscles. This here, I think it's this and this. Brachioradialis. And then here is where we get our flexor group. Okay, so that's pretty much arm muscles. So I'm just gonna do a few quick examples and you can follow along with me, and it will be more just examples from the book. If you want reference to the book that I'm looking at, it's Figure Drawing, Design and Invention by Michael Hampton. And I really do actually love this book in terms of the way it breaks things down. But yeah, essentially the more that you learn, the greater your understanding will be and the greater grasp you'll have of the way in which you like to work. Yeah, so I'm just going to draw some examples from the book. And I'd recommend just following along with me. And then if you want some homework based off this video, I'd say go onto Pinterest, look at arm muscles and sketch out some for yourself and try and identify some of the muscles we've been talking about. Yeah, so just sketching out this deltoid here, drawing that kind of petal, or you could, another way I've seen the deltoid or thought of the deltoid is as a shield. So that could be another way, or a dragon claw. Yeah, so we've got the deltoid here. Bicep, tricep, bicep in the front, tricep in the back. And I'm utilizing those kind of S-curves. Something that can also help you is just drawing contour lines over what you're drawing. Okay, and then here's where that kind of splits. So I'm just drawing the split. Which is kind of like here. And so deltoid, bicep, tricep, this little part here. And then if we refer back to what we are seeing from like the front half of the arm, we're going to be seeing yeah, it'd be the brachialis and the flexors. So brachialis would actually be this one here, and the flexor or flexors would be this group here, and then that's going to come down into the hand. And if you're new to drawing, one thing I would definitely say, think about the shapes, think about the overall shape of something, and then go into what you've drawn and figure out the details. So I'm crudely gonna draw this hand. One goes there, and then we've got where the thumb is here. Kind of like that. And I guess we could draw like a little thing there. Yeah. Okay, let's do another one. Drawing that circular shape for the deltoid. Remember that like shield-like motion. So we're gonna follow that shield-like motion. Bicep here. Tricep. Tricep's gonna be like this little bit here that I'm gonna put in shadow. And the bicep is what's over the top. And then here, gonna have that brachialis coming down. Remember how as you rotate the arm, it's like it stretches. It's this drawing here, down here. It stretches across. And so that's what we're drawing here. We're drawing the brachialis stretch across the arm like this. And then obviously you're gonna have where the shoulder is, because like there's like a very thin muscle over it, but it can be a lot more pronounced because the shoulder kind of shows through. No, I mean elbow. Yeah, elbow. Because the elbow shows through, it can be pretty pronounced. And then obviously this here, right underneath, is going to be our extensor muscles. And so you can see how that kind of stretches out. And then we're going to finish, and we're just going to draw our hand. This isn't a video about hands. I will make one. But overall what I'm doing is I'm drawing the overall shape and then finishing it off. So I'll draw like this square-like shape that represents this section of the hand, and then what I will do is, rather than drawing every individual detail of like the fingers, I'll draw like an overall mitten, a mitten shape, kind of like this, that I can then fit the fingers into. So I'll fit the fingers around. It doesn't have to fully fit exactly the way the fingers are, because I can make up for it. After adjust it based off the rough estimate of my drawing. But it just needs to give me a general guideline for a hand. Yeah, so there's our hand, there's our arm. Okay, so yeah, that was my episode on arms. Hopefully that was helpful. If there's anything that you want broken down in a more specific way, let me know in the comments. I am planning to make like a video on each individual thing so that anatomy becomes more accessible to people. But if there's any specific topic or thing that you want to see, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.